The night was freezing, and the stars above looked like cold eyes watching the world below. Josh, a young human scavenger, pulled his jacket tighter as he walked through the junk fields of planet Rivos. His breath made little white clouds in the air, and his stomach growled with hunger. He had only one thing left in his bag, a half-piece of energy bar, dry and broken, but still food. He looked at it, sighed, and planned to eat it slowly. But then something moved in the shadows. At first, he thought it was just metal shifting in the wind, but when he looked closer, he saw a small figure. Curled up behind a broken engine. She was tiny, shaking, and her skin was pale purple with glowing marks on her face. An alien girl, maybe no older than 10, hiding and half covered in dust. She didn't speak, just looked at him with wide, scared eyes. Josh stepped closer and held up his hands to show he meant no harm. "It's okay," he said softly, even though he knew she might not understand him. "I won't hurt you." The girl blinked slowly, too weak to move. Josh saw her ribs showing, her fingers trembling. She hadn't eaten in days, maybe more. He looked at the energy bar in his hand, then back at her. He hadn't eaten either. Not since yesterday, but looking at her, he felt something inside him stir. He knelt beside her and broke the bar in half. Then, slowly, he offered the bigger piece to her. She hesitated, then snatched it gently, eating like a silent ghost. Josh smiled sadly and sat beside her, chewing his smaller piece slowly. They didn't speak, but something passed between them, something deep, wordless, and strong. That night, Josh built a small shelter out of scrap around them. He gave her his extra blanket, even though he shivered without it. She stared at him while he fell asleep beside her, his head resting on a toolbox. And then, before the sun rose, she was gone. Josh woke up to silence. No trace of hers, the blanket neatly folded beside him, but something strange caught his eye. A small glowing stone lay on the ground where she had slept. It pulsed gently with soft blue light, warm to the touch. He picked it up, confused, then placed it in his pocket. For years, he kept it like a charm, never forgetting the girl with the glowing face and quiet eyes. People told him he was crazy. They said no alien girl could survive alone out here. They laughed at the idea of a lost child in the junk fields, but Josh knew what he saw. He remembered her face, her shaking hands, and the way she looked at him with silent thanks, even though they met for only one night. It changed something in him. He started helping more scavengers, sharing food when he had extra. He became known as the kind one, the one who gave without asking anything back. But deep inside, he always wondered, who was she? Where did she come from? And why did she leave the glowing stone behind? Years passed. Josh grew older, taller, stronger, but the memory never faded. Sometimes at night, when the wind howled and the stars looked down again, he held the stone in his hand and whispered, "Where did you go?" He never expected an answer. He never expected to see her again, but fate had other plans. And somewhere, far away in the galaxy, a grown alien woman with glowing marks on her skin looked out of a starship window. She held a worn, folded piece of blanket in her arms, and a small piece of a broken energy bar inside a sealed case. Her eyes were combat fire, burned behind them. She had searched the stars for years, and now she was ready to return to the one who gave his last food to save her life, to the human who showed kindness when the galaxy did not. She whispered one word into the wind: soon. The starship moved slowly through the shadows of a broken moon, its black hull nearly invisible in space. Only the soft hum of its ancient engines filled the silence inside. And at the very front of the ship, she stood, silent and still, her glowing eyes locked onto a small planet displayed on the screen. The planet where he had saved her life. She hadn't forgotten, not the cold, not the hunger. and never the human boy who gave her warmth and food when the universe had only given her fear. Years had passed since that night, but in her memory it lived like fire, burning, guiding, shaping everything she had become. She had trained, fought, and grown strong. Her people had once abandoned her, thought her weak, but she had survived because of him, because of his kindness, and now she was returning not as a lost child, but as something more, down on the planet. Josh wiped sweat from his forehead as he lifted a heavy metal beam. The salvage work was hard and dirty, but it paid enough to survive. He was older now. His hands were calloused, his clothes worn, and yet around his neck, under his shirt, still hung the glowing stone. It never dimmed, never aged, as if it waited for something. That day had been like every other until the sky cracked with thunder, and a shadow passed over the camp. People looked up, pointing, whispering, asking questions. A ship unlike any they'd seen hovered in the sky, sleek, silent, terrifying in its beauty. And then it vanished, cloaking itself again. Josh felt a chill run down his back, not fear, but something deeper. Something he couldn't name. That night, he walked alone to the same junk field where he had once found the girl. The wind was sharp, and the sky above was quiet. He held the stone in his hand and spoke aloud to the empty stars. "Are you still out there?" Behind him, footsteps, he turned, ready to defend himself, but then froze. She stood there, tall, her armor glowing faintly, her face calm but intense. And those same eyes, older, sharper, but still hers, still the girl he once saved. He didn't speak. She walked forward slowly, no weapons drawn, no guards, just her. "You gave me your last food," she said softly, her voice smooth but heavy with emotion, "and I never forgot." Josh took a step closer, still not sure if this was real, still unsure if she would vanish again like before. "You came back," he whispered. "Yes," she replied. "To repay the debt." Suddenly, the wind picked up, and something shimmered behind her, a second figure, armored, but not like her. This one had weapons raised, aimed at Josh. She didn't look back. She didn't flinch. "They followed me," she said. "They want to erase all proof of who I was." Josh didn't think. He grabbed her arm and pulled her behind a metal wall just as a blaster shot scorched the ground where he had stood. The enemy fired again, but the girl raised her hand, and a powerful shield of light flashed around them. Blocking the next hit, she looked at him with wide eyes. "Why did you protect me again?" she asked. "You don't even know who I am now, because I remember who you were." He said without blinking, "And I know who you are now." The attackers moved fast, but together. They ran through the junk maze, dodging fire, breathing hard, hiding behind broken ships and old engines. Just like the night she first appeared, but now it was him running beside her, not protecting her, but surviving with her. When they finally reached the hidden cave under the old ridge, she placed her hand on the wall, and the stone around Josh's neck began to glow. The rock in front of them shifted, revealing a secret chamber deep underground. "This place was left for me," she said, "but it only opens when you're near." Josh looked at her in confusion. "Why me?" She turned to him slowly. "Because I wasn't just a lost girl," she said. "I was marked by my people, cursed to be erased, but when you gave me food, your action broke that curse." The chamber opened wider, light pouring out from ancient symbols on the walls. She stepped inside, then turned to him and held out her hand. "Come," she said. "You deserve to see what your kindness unlocked." Josh hesitated only a second, then took her hand and stepped into the glowing chamber, unaware that everything he thought he knew about his life was about to change forever. Far behind them, in the dark sky, more ships were coming, faster, angrier, and with one mission: destroy everything she touched, including him. But she had Made a promise long ago she would protect the one who gave her life, no matter the cost. The door closed behind them without a sound, locking out the world. Inside the chamber, there was no wind, no fire, no fear, only silence and glowing walls that pulsed like they were alive. Josh's boots echoed softly as he stepped forward. Eyes wide, breath caught in his throat. The girl no. The woman walked ahead without hesitation, her fingers brushing over the walls. Symbols lit up beneath her touch, ancient, beautiful, and unknown to him, but they seemed to respond to her. Emotions. Soft gold when she was calm, burning red when she grew tense. Josh kept glancing back at the door, half expecting soldiers to break through. But no one came, and the silence only grew heavier, deeper, as if the chamber itself was holding its breath. Then she turned and looked at him, her voice low and sharp. "You don't know what this place is, do you?" He shook his head slowly. "I only followed you." She stepped closer, her face close now, the glow of the chamber reflecting in her eyes. "This is a tomb," she whispered, "but also a weapon." Josh blinked, unsure what she meant. "A weapon." She pointed to the center of the room, where a platform rose from the floor, hovering inches above the ground. On it lay a strange object, half crystal, half metal. Shaped like a heart, but beating softly like it was alive. The air around it shimmered like heat, though the room was cold. "My people call it the Vora seed," she said. "It chooses a protector, someone pure, someone forgotten, someone who gives without expecting." Josh frowned, confused. "And you think?" "It chose me." She nodded once, slowly. "No, I know it did." As he stepped toward it, the stone on his neck began to glow so brightly it hurt to look at. The symbols on the walls flared with light, and the crystal heart lifted higher into the air, vibrating. Like it could feel him nearby, she whispered something in her language. And for the first time, Josh realized how much power was in her voice, calm, sharp, commanding. She had become someone else entirely from the girl he once sheltered. "Why? Me?" he asked again, louder this time. "I'm not strong. I'm not brave. I'm just me." "You're the only one who saw a starving alien girl," she said, and didn't look away. Before he could say anything more, the crystal heart flew straight toward him, stopping inches from his chest. He froze, afraid it would pierce him, explode. Or worse, but it simply touched his skin and melted into his body. Disappearing without a trace, he fell to one knee, gasping, his mind flashing with images he didn't understand, worlds burning, stars being born, alien faces, battles, voices whispering in languages he'd never heard, all crashing through his head like waves. She knelt beside him, holding his shoulders. "You're feeling its memory," she said. "It knows you now." When the pain faded, he looked up, sweat on his face, his heart racing, but his voice steady. "I saw everything. I know," she said quietly. "And now you understand what's coming." He stood slowly, stronger than before. Something inside him had changed, not just his body, but something deeper. Something ancient had woken up inside him, and it wasn't done yet. Far above, in the orbit of the planet, the enemy ships had arrived, silent and dark, preparing to strike without warning. They had tracked her for years, and now it finally found the last key, Josh, the human who wasn't supposed to matter. "They'll come for me," he said, turning toward her. "And for you. They'll come for the seed inside you," she corrected, her voice bitter. "But I won't let them take you." Josh reached into his pocket and pulled out the small folded cloth, the same one he had wrapped around her all those years ago, now old and torn. He handed it to her with a sad smile. "Now it's my turn to protect you," he said. She took it with trembling fingers, her voice almost breaking. "You don't have to." "But I want to," he answered. Just like before, she closed her eyes and nodded once, and when she opened them again, Her warrior mask was back, strong and cold. But he had seen behind it, now seen the heart still beating inside her. Outside the chamber, the sky turned red. Missiles launched. Alarms rang in the salvage camps, and every weapon pointed toward the place where two souls, once strangers, now something more, stood ready for whatever would come next. The first explosion hit without sound. A bright light in the sky, followed by a low, shaking rumble deep beneath the ground. Josh didn't speak. He just felt the stone inside his chest pulse once, like a warning, like a heartbeat not his own. She turned sharply, eyes glowing brighter than before. Her armor flared with energy, thin lines of light crawling across its surface like living fire. She knew what it meant. The enemy had arrived, and they would show no mercy. Not to her, not to him, not to anything standing in their way. Josh didn't ask what to do. He just followed her as she moved through a hidden tunnel behind the chamber. The walls around them shifted with each tremor. Ancient rock and forgotten technology groaning under pressure. Somewhere above, machines screamed, engines roared, and metal burned. "Why are they hunting you?" he asked as they ran, dodging falling debris. "What do they want from all this?" She didn't look back, her voice steady, even as dust fell on her shoulders. "They want to erase me," she said, "and now they want to erase you too." They emerged into a hidden hangar. Covered by vines and rusted doors, an old craft sat. In the middle, part ship, part beast, its wings folded like broken arms. She rushed to it, placing her hand on the side, and the whole thing came alive with a low growl. Lights blinking on, engines humming like a sleeping creature waking from centuries of silence. Josh stared, breathless. "You had this all along." She shook her head. "It was buried until you arrived. The seed unlocked it." They boarded quickly, and within seconds, the ship rose into the air just as a missile struck the ground behind them, fire chasing them into the sky like a monster. With 1,000 burning mouths, Josh held the sides of his seat tightly, feeling the pulse in his chest grow stronger with every second. Like it was guiding the ship, not her. Outside, the enemy fleet waited, dark and wide like a metal storm. Their ships were sharp, angry things, bristling with weapons and already in attack formation. They didn't care who Josh was. They didn't care what kindness had passed years ago. They only wanted the power he now carried. "Are you scared?" she asked quietly as the ship pierced through a line of smoke and dodged incoming fire. He nodded, yes, then smiled. "But I'm also tired of running." Her lips curved slightly at the edge, just a ghost of a smile, but in her eyes pride burned bright. They had no backup, no army, no chance. But she had something more than soldiers now. She had him. Their ship dove toward the largest enemy vessel, and suddenly Josh's chest flared with light. Beams shot from the underbelly of their craft, light that wasn't part of the ship before. Light that seemed to come from him, from inside him. He gasped, but didn't stop it. He reached out, not knowing what he was doing, and the ship moved with him like a shadow. Faster, smarter, alive. She stared at him in awe. "You're bonding with it," she whispered. "The seed is choosing you for more than protection. It's making you the key." Josh didn't understand all of it, but he knew one thing: they had a chance now. A real one. They weaved through the enemy fleet like a silver ghost, lasers cutting through space, blasts missing by inches. Alarms screaming, enemy pilots shouting in a dozen alien languages, but their ship never slowed, never shook. It flew like it was meant to be up there, like it was free again after lifetimes in the dark. One of the enemy ships broke formation and followed them directly, faster and stronger than the rest. It looked different to its design, older, darker, and more cruel. She looked at it and froze for a moment, eyes wide. "That's not just a hunter," she said, voice low. "That's a judge." Josh looked at her, confused. "What's a judge?" "Someone who decides who deserves to exist," she answered. And this time, her voice cracked just a little. "They judged me once and wanted me gone. Now they've come for their final sentence." Josh didn't wait. He pushed his hand forward. And their ship responded like a living thing, twisting hard, rising, diving, dodging fire that lit the sky behind them in waves. The judge's ship followed every move perfectly, like it knew what Josh would do before he did it. "We can't outrun it," she said, "not for long." "Then we don't run," he replied. "We make them remember why I fed you that night, not because I was strong, but because I still believed in good." She looked at him with eyes, shining now not just with light, but with something more, something she hadn't felt in years: hope. The judge's voice came before his ship even fired, deep and cold, not through speakers, not through sound, but directly into their minds. Josh gasped as it echoed inside his skull, like someone peeling open his thoughts, reading his memories without asking. "You are not worthy," the voice said, slow and sharp. "The seed must return to silence." Josh clenched his fists as the pain rippled through his chest, like ice sliding through his blood. The stone inside him pulsed harder, almost afraid. And for the first time since it entered him, it dimmed. The alien woman placed her hand over his heart, her touch warm, calming, firm. "Don't listen," she whispered. "It speaks lies, it always has," but the judge was still coming. Its ship faster than anything around them, sleek as a blade, its weapons glowing blue, its energy cannons charging. One shot from that monster could erase them both from the sky. Josh gritted his teeth. "How do we fight something that doesn't think we deserve to exist?" "By proving we do," she answered. "Not to them, to ourselves." The cockpit flickered as the judge locked on, red lights flashing, targeting complete. Time was out. Choices were few, and the sky felt like it was holding its breath. Then, the seed inside Josh burst back to life. He didn't move his body, moved itself. Arms reaching forward, eyes glowing faintly, and from the ship's wings, strange light-formed shields, not made of tech, but memory, raw will, and ancient power. It shaped around them like armor made from the past, from kindness, from the one act he once did in silence. The enemy fired. Time slowed. The shot hit the shield, but instead of exploding, the energy passed through like water through glass, splitting into 1,000 harmless sparks, raining down like quiet stars. The judge paused, confused for the first time in centuries. Its voice faltered inside their minds, and the woman smiled. "It doesn't understand," she said. "It was made to destroy strength, but this power comes from compassion." Josh took a slow breath, still glowing, still burning inside. "Then let's use it." Their ship dove again. Not to run, but to strike. The light around them sharpened. The beam from their core was no longer wild. It was focused, bright, pure. It hit the judge's ship in the center, not destroying it but breaking its silence, shattering its control. The voice screamed inside their minds, but this time it sounded afraid, small and distant. The judge was not used to resistance, didn't know how to lose. As it fell back, engines damaged, shields cracked. The rest of the enemy fleet hesitated, drifting, waiting for orders that never came. And then, one by one, the smaller ships began to retreat, vanishing into the clouds of space, leaving behind silence. Josh fell back into his seat, breathing hard, sweat pouring down his face, his heart pounding like thunder. She looked at him not like a savior, not like a warrior, but like someone she trusted with everything. "You don't know what you've just done," she said gently. "I stopped a monster." He replied, "No," she whispered. "You started a wave." As they returned to the planet's surface, the sky calm again. People gathered below, scavengers, workers, forgotten souls who had watched the battle from afar. They didn't understand what they had seen, but they felt it. Deep in their bones, something had changed. The girl he once saved now stood beside him like a queen reborn, and he, the human with empty pockets and quiet kindness, now carried a legacy older than any throne. When they landed, a child stepped forward from the crowd, holding a broken energy bar, wrapped in plastic, and offered it to Josh with shaking hands. No words, just a silent thank you. He knelt, took the bar, and smiled. "Pass it on," he said, and in that moment, the alien woman knew. The power wasn't in the stone or the seed or the shield, was in that simple act, long ago, in the cold night, when one human gave everything to someone no one else would touch. The first time she saw him bleeding, her hands froze. Not because she was afraid of blood, but because she remembered a time when she had none to give. A time when she had sat starving behind a broken engine, and he had given her everything. Now he lay before her, body bruised, face cut, and his eyes half open even while unconscious. He looked peaceful, as if trusting her with his life without saying a word. And that broke something deep inside her. The crowd had scattered after the battle, some in awe, others in fear, but she stayed by his side, hands trembling over his body, not knowing how to help, only knowing she had to. The glow in his chest, the seed was fading fast. Her people had called it a gift, a curse, a legacy. But she no longer cared what they called it. To her, it was him now, and if it stopped beating, then something inside her would stop too. She pressed her forehead against his and whispered in a voice no one else could hear, "I'm still alive because of you. So you don't get to leave me like this." The ground rumbled again, and her head snapped up, not from an enemy ship this time, but something deeper, older, beneath the surface. The chamber they had unlocked was not just a vault. It was waking up, and it was responding to him. Suddenly, the stone in his chest flared once more, just enough to light up her eyes, and the ground cracked open near them, revealing a narrow staircase glowing with blue light. Voices echoed from below, not of people, but of the past. She didn't wait. She lifted him into her arms, his body surprisingly light despite everything, and carried him down the steps, the walls pulsing with light as she passed, like the chamber recognized him, like it wept for him. When they reached the heart of the cave, a pool of liquid light waited in the center, calm and warm. Surrounded by ancient symbols, she knelt and placed him into it slowly, her hands shaking, unsure but hopeful. The light wrapped around his body like silk, sinking into his skin. And for a moment, just a moment, she feared it was too late. Then he opened his eyes. They glowed brighter than ever before, not just with the power of the seed, but with something new, something real, something alive. He gasped and coughed, water and light dripping from his lips, and when he looked at her, he smiled weakly. "You stayed." He whispered. "I always would," she replied, "but you have to promise not to die again." "I'll try," he said, with a soft grin. "But you make it hard to rest." They sat there, the cave silent around them, the pool still glowing beneath his back, and she looked down at her reflection. The girl who had once been weak, forgotten, a joke to her people, was now someone who could protect the one who once protected her. Josh sat up slowly, the pain gone, replaced by something strong, steady, and wild. He looked at the chamber and asked, "Why did it save me?" She answered without thinking, "Because you're the one who taught it kindness." Far above the surface, the remains of the enemy fleet had begun sending signals, warnings, messages that would ripple across stars. The judge had failed, the seed had awakened, and the protector was human, and across the galaxy, others began to stir, those who had hunted her bloodline, those who had feared the chamber's return, and those who had waited for the seed's rebirth. War was coming again, but this time she wouldn't be alone, and neither would he. The stars looked different now, not because they had changed, but because he had. Josh stood at the edge of the landing platform, the cool night wind brushing against his face. Behind him, she waited quietly, armored, graceful, and still watching. Him the way she did that first night, like he mattered. The people on this planet would sleep safely tonight, not knowing how close they came to being erased. Not knowing it was the same scavenger boy they once ignored who had shielded them from the dark. He didn't wear a crown, didn't raise a flag, but in their eyes, he had become something more than a man. The alien girl, now a woman, stepped beside him, and for a long time, neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. Silence had always been their first language. I don't belong here anymore, he said softly. Eyes on the stars, neither do I, she answered, but together. We can belong somewhere new. A new ship waited for them behind the ruins. Sleek and shaped like a blade of light, its systems were fused with the seed now part of Josh. Responding to his thoughts, guided by his feelings, it no longer flew. By fuel alone, it flew by belief. The galaxy knew he existed now, and that was dangerous. His kindness had been quiet once, a hidden flame, but now it had become a signal, seen by friend and foe alike. Others would come, some seeking help, others seeking to destroy. He looked at the wrapped cloth still tucked in his side pouch, the one he'd once used to keep a little alien girl warm. She had kept it all these years, even when she became strong enough to burn ships from the sky. It reminded him that everything big had started with something small. You never told me your real name, he said, turning to her. She smiled for the first time, not the soft curl of her lips from before, but a full, bright smile that made the stars look dull. In my language, she said slowly, it means the one who remembers. I like that, Josh said. It fits. He reached for her hand, and she didn't pull away. Her fingers curled around his gently, strong and warm, and together they walked toward the ship, each step echoing like a promise through the ancient ground beneath them. The engines came to life, whispering instead of roaring. And as they lifted off, the people below looked up, watching light streak across the sky, unaware that the protector among them had finally left. Unaware that the one who gave his last food to a starving alien girl had changed not just a life, but the future. As the stars surrounded them, she leaned her head against his shoulder and whispered, "This time I won't vanish in the morning." Josh looked at her and smiled. "This time we fly together." And so they did, not as warrior and human, not as royalty and scavenger, but as two souls who had once shared a simple meal under a cold sky, turned it into a story the galaxy would never forget.